I'm Helen.
I'm Miss Sinclair.
And I'm Edison. Y'all better grab your extra large popcorn. We are in the thick of things with great films.
I am open and positive.
I don't like it.
Let's throw on these boxer gloves.
Let's do it.
Let's fucking do it.
Welcome to Talk Movie to Me, a weekly podcast where we do a deep dive on a new release that's just hit theaters or streaming. I'm Helen.
I'm Miss Sinclair.
And I'm Edison, and on this week's episode, we're singing songs of love with The Idea of You, a film that tries to prove me wrong when I tell all the 20-somethings who message me on dating apps that they're sweet and naive, but fully wrong when they say age is just a number. Directed by Michael Showalter and based on the novel by Robin Lee, this rom-com brings the heat with a cast that'll make you want to dig out your old boy band posters and dance before you walk. Annie Hathaway, flourishing in this new era of her career, stars as Solène Marchand, a divorced art gallery owner staring down her 40th birthday. She figures what she needs is a solo camping trip to reconnect with nature. Sounds great, right? Wrong. Life throws Solène a curveball when she gets roped into chaperoning her teenage daughter Izzy, played by Ella Rubin, and her friends to Coachella. Enter Hayes Campbell, the lead singer of August Moon, the hottest boy band on the planet, played by the heartthrob himself, Nicholas Galitzine. A chance encounter in the loo throws Solène and Hayes together, sparking an undeniable connection that defies all the rules. See, 16 years separate them, but the chemistry is undeniable. The Idea of You takes us on a whirlwind romance that whisks Solène from her art gallery in Silver Lake to jet-setting across Europe on a tour with a pop star. But hold on, folks, because this rom-com isn't all sunshine and love songs. It turns out falling in love with a 24-year-old global pop sensation comes with its own drawbacks. Be it the paparazzi frenzy, the judgmental whispers, or your teenage daughter's high school classmates asking her to try and get naked pics of her mom's new boy band boyfriend.
Can you blame them?
Absolutely not. The Idea of You is a film that celebrates second chances, the power of connection, and the fact that sometimes the most unexpected adventures are the ones that change your life forever. So grab your popcorn, dust off your best festival wear, and get ready to swoon. The Idea of You asks the question, is there an expiration date on love, or can a chance encounter with a pop star rewrite the whole damn song? First impressions, Sinclair.
You did that on purpose. You should have seen his face saying that. Sinclair, what do you think of this movie?
Just your first impression.
Just my first impression. When this first started, there was a Maggie Rogers song, and I immediately thought of Helen.
Yes.
Because Helen loves Maggie Rogers, so it was hard not to think of her when that began. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I had a little bit of a chuckle because there's a gorgeous house, a woman named Solène, she's dressed so beautifully. She's going through fiction, like that demographic, what they would read, right? Mm-hmm. And I say that demographic, that's actually my demographic. I just turned 40. So I laughed because I also saw normal people get thrown into the suitcase, and I was like, Helen loves normal people.
I do. It's a great book.
I did have a little bit of chuckle because it is very clear when this starts who this is for and why this is being made and what this is trying to do. But that's not to say I wasn't having a good time when this started. I love Anne Hathaway, and I thought she was just looking so breathtaking. It's such a great era of her career. Mm-hmm. So, my spirits were high, for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. Cynicism just under the surface there waiting to come out, but spirits high.
Tame that beast.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Helen, what about you?
Yeah, well, this does start off with Light On by Maggie Rogers, which is the song itself is all about, like, if you leave the light on, then I'll leave the light on. Like, if you want to reignite this relationship, I'm here for it. And if not, that's okay, which is apropos for the film.
Some foreshadowing.
Yeah. And a couple minutes in, the daughter, Isabel, says to Solène and to her friend Tracy, that she's not really into boy bands anymore. It's more about aggressively talented female singer-songwriters. And I thought, like, maybe that's a little bit of a nod to Maggie. And then we've got, you know, Fiona Apple in the soundtrack. We've got St. Vincent mentioned quite a few times. So I kind of liked that. But of course, I was in immediately with that song. Like, perfect for me. What about you, Edison?
Yeah, so, well, the film opens with these sort of like sweeping aerial views over Silver Lake, this very famously hipster neighborhood in LA, and all these like gorgeous houses on the hills and the palm trees, and I was just like, oh, I want the warmth and the sunshine. And then we land on this like beautiful little craftsman house, and we meet Selene, and it's Anne Hathaway, and I just immediately believe Anne Hathaway in this house.
Yeah.
Like, it's earthy and homey and cozy, but it's beautiful and stylish and warm, and I kind of get a sense of who this character is, and I believed her as it right off the bat. Seeing her like with the teenage daughter was the first time I was sort of seeing Annie, and I shall refer to her as Annie throughout this episode.
She is Annie.
As a mom on screen, especially like a mom of teenagers. And at first I was like, oh, wait, what? Right. But really, like, yeah, it makes sense. She's 41. She could totally have a teenage daughter.
Yeah.
And she is totally believable as it. So, yeah, I was hooked also right from the get-go with this.
Well, let's get into storytelling. So this is based off of a novel by the same name by Robin Lee. She seems to be super talented, and she's an actress and a writer and a producer. She also went to Yale and went to Columbia Law School. So I'm like, okay, wow. You do everything. But I read the first like 20 pages of this book on Amazon today just because I was curious how, you know, what it is. And it's a beach read, you know?
Yeah.
But I think that the movie actually really elevates the story. Granted, I only read the first little bit, but it feels very like, okay, 50 Shades of Grey, or like it's written to be consumed by a lot of people, and it's fluffy and it's just fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, the book has been described as Harry Styles fan fiction.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah,
and I can see that. I mean, I haven't read it, but seeing the film, that makes sense for the story.
Two things I noticed that were very different just from reading the first little bit is that the daughter in the book is actually 12, and she's obsessed with the band. And they're not at Coachella. They're in Vegas at a meet and greet, and like the dad won tickets at an auction. They just happened upon these tickets, sort of. And then Hayes's character is 20, so a little bit younger as well, which right away reading the book I was like, this feels a bit creepy.
It's funny how different those few years are.
Yeah, it felt a bit those age gaps, like her daughter being that young and then him being 20, it felt a bit like I'm glad they made those adjustments in the script, because right away I got like a bit of an ick in reading the book. But let's get into the movie.
Well, just going off of that was one thing that I noticed about the storytelling, was that it felt very fan fiction-y to me. Like this could have been written by like a fan of Notting Hill or by Edison.
Yeah, it's very Notting Hill. Yeah.
Somebody who loved The Devil Wears Prada and wanted to do a story about where Andy is at 40. You know, what's she doing now?
Yes.
And I mean, I honestly have been like a little frustrated with fiction for women. I'm somebody that I can't get swept up with this stuff, though I do get a chuckle out of it, but it does feel like very formulaic and very, I don't want to say prey upon, but or exploit. It just is playing into the fantasy that we think like 40-year-old women have. You know, there is like an intent there, and it's like a certain demographic. And I mean, like, I honestly had fun with this, but I feel like my cynicism, like we were saying before, it can't unsee what this is and what this is trying to do and who this is targeting. And I have a hard time getting swept up. You
can't just like put it aside and enjoy the ride.
It just seems so intentional in understanding maybe the psyche of a certain age and really trying to play into that fantasy. And that really is what it is at the end of the day.
Well, in your opinion.
Yeah. Do you not think, though, that there is something interesting here in terms of subverting the, like, typically it's an older man that gets a younger woman? Like, I do think, fantasy aside, I actually think that there's interesting commentary.
I do. And, like, I'm not saying I dislike the film at all. There are a lot of elements that I do like about it. I think that just this aspect of the boy band and all of that and that kind of playing into like, 40-year-old women love Timothée Chalamet. They love Harry Styles. If I'm just looking at that, that's a hard part for me to ignore, the playing into that.
I had read one quote from Robin Lee about this story and what it was about, and she was like, I didn't want it to be about the boy band. I wanted it to be about this 40-year-old woman who had kind of felt undesirable because of this shitty divorce and rediscovered her sexuality and her power in this relationship. And that was kind of what I got in this. I can't imagine what it's like to be a 40-year-old woman, though I did watch it with my housemate Jenny, who both of us just sat on the couch, basically just being like, we want this. And actually, both of us immediately went on to the dating profiles and were like, fine, we'll broaden our age parameters just in case.
Oh my God, amazing.
But yeah, like, wouldn't there be a fantasy there for that's kind of universal of just like, but Sinclair, don't you feel like everybody just wants to have this friggin' fantasy of like hooking up with a famous rock star, being jet set around on tour, having amazing sex in beautiful hotel rooms, feeling confident and amazing, and ditching your normal humdrum life behind for a summer vacation?
Listen, I feel like you two are making me into a villain, and that is not what I'm doing here. Like,
no, Mama, you made your own bed. We're
listen. What I'm saying is, I get this. I get why this works. I mean, sure, but you know, in my case, it wouldn't necessarily be a boy band. It would be like Gavin Rossdale in 1995. you know what I mean? Like, I understand this. I get what this is doing, and I don't even necessarily have a problem with it. I do think that this is a very particular style, and like I was saying before, Reese Witherspoon and her book club, there is a certain style and glossiness to this. The divorce is messy, but it's never really that messy. Like, this never really goes past a certain level of emotion, a certain level of grittiness. That's fine. So I'm just saying that this style doesn't necessarily do it for me.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Yeah, but I can see how this works.
Style does work for those who are a little less discerning and a bit more dumb, like Helen and myself.
Right, exactly.
No, I'm going to fight back on that because
this is your word. Listen,
I'm going to tell you something. I actually think this movie is smart. This movie could be bad.
Yeah.
This could be a Hallmark movie. And I'm allowed to say that because I'm in them.
This also could have been anyone but you. This movie did a lot of things right, where a movie like Anyone But You did a lot of things wrong.
Yeah. I think that this movie elevates itself. I think the script is actually super smart. And I think that a lot of the changes that they made to the story make this something very relatable. Like, I actually think that, aside from the fact that she's like stunningly gorgeous and skinny and like has amazing clothes and like a beautiful house and owns an art gallery, like
dealer.
All of the things where you're like, your life's actually perfect. So whatever. But
and it's like the coolest mom.
But I believe, like, I actually believe all of her feelings. I believe, like, the monologue she has about the divorce and about having that moment at the dinner table about the cheating, like, that felt so authentic to me. And when she said, I was so nice about it, like, I feel like it's taking an angle on something that a lot of people go through. You know, there's a lot of women in their 40s who are divorced and their husbands ditched them for younger women. Like, but it has this approach that I think is super, it feels very authentic to me. And I couldn't help but think about Jennifer Westfeld is one of the screenwriters. she was with John Hamm for like almost 20 years, and then they split up, and now he's married to a woman who's my age, basically.
Oh.
And so there was a part of me that was like, I wonder how much she's bringing of her own experience to this.
You know, that's actually really disappointing to hear, because I don't know anything about that man's personal life, but I just finished the most recent season of The Morning Show, and I actually was fully shipping him and Jennifer Aniston. Anyway,
I know. No, he just got remarried last year.
Yeah.
Lame.
So sorry, I just feel like I need to defend the fact that I think this is actually a smarter movie than a lot of other movies in this genre. This movie is elevated, in my opinion.
This does get a lot of things right, for sure. Especially compared to some of the stinkers we've seen lately.
Yeah.
Like Anyone But You.
Absolutely.
God. Yeah.
If you wanted to talk about the age difference too, and it being an older woman, I mean, yeah, there are great conversations there with that. You know, it made me think of Keanu Reeves and his age appropriate, as they say, age appropriate girlfriend, who's actually younger than him, but is being called out for being too old for him and this and that. And the media is really hard on older women. And 40 is 40. It's actually not that old.
No, I feel like 40 is the new,
different
like,
for
25.
everybody.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing is that this character would be scrutinized for being 40. And I think that those themes are really quite true, unfortunately.
Part of why it works in this film as well is because of Hayes' character. You know, he really does come across as a bit more mature for his age. Absolutely. And like emotionally intelligent. And it also helps, like, you know, let's be real. I'm 40. Like, am I going to date a 24-year-old? Absolutely not. But would I date a multimillionaire 24-year-old pop star? Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
Because the worry about dating somebody way younger is that you got to take care of them and provide for them and shit. But it's like, this person is independent, is successful, is intelligent, emotionally intelligent. Yeah, that balances some of the equation. But what I appreciated about it is Solène, Anne Hathaway's character, even though she was going through her own emotional journey with this, she felt to me in complete control.
Yeah.
In every moment.
Yeah, agreed.
When she goes to the hotel room to meet him in Paris or wherever the hell it was, and she walks into that hotel room in that dress and takes off her coat and turns around, it's like, yeah, you understand 1,000% why this woman standing there in front of him is about 1,000,000 times more appealing than any of the like young girl groupies that he's going to be bumping into, the swap stars. That is a confident, sexy, empowered woman. I was like, Anne Hathaway is a fucking goddess. Like, dude, you need to be kissing her feet. Maybe not literally, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and so often in these types of movies, there's more swooning. Like, she doesn't actually, like, she's attracted to him, but she's also very resistant and kind of offended by him. Like, I love when he comes into the art gallery and wants to buy everything, and she's like, people are serious about this. This isn't like fun. You
can't just come in here and flex.
Yeah, like, fuck you, you're not appreciating the art. You know, like, she really stands her ground with him, and I feel like almost fights through all of that to then achieve some sort of a relationship with him, versus like, I can't help myself, you're so sexy and rich and famous, but actually you're an asshole. You know, like, it sort of goes the opposite way, and I really liked that.
Yeah.
Well, and all of their initial interactions are him asking her all of the questions about her. Like, really, it's like only 3 conversations in when she finally says, like, okay, and what about you?
Yeah.
Because she is truly reluctant to get involved with this person.
Well, it's interesting because, with the character of Hayes, obviously my cynicism came out, because realistically, this guy would be, I think, a nightmare. Like, he would be a complete man-child.
Yeah.
He would be suffering from arrested development, you know, but, you know, I think that the fantasy of this is that there's this attractive boy band gentleman coming in. He pursues her. He wants to hear about her feelings and her divorce, and he's interested in my divorce. And it's this fantasy That's what I think is interesting, because the idea of you, I think that that's really what it is. I think that the character in this is actually the fantasy that everyone actually puts on these boy bands, like these guys. And the reality is they're a bunch of man babies, you know?
Well, I do think that, to be fair, I think that was shown, when they're at the villa. And...
But, this one's different, though, Edison. This one's different. This one thinks that I'm the most interesting woman in the world, that I'm different from everybody else. He wants to hear about my divorce.
I don't think that's what this is.
I think that character is a manic pixie boy band.
I think that he is different from his friends and that he's more mature. And I don't think that she really gives that much of a shit about him caring about her divorce. She, in fact, is still reluctant about it all. It's just the undeniable chemistry and the fact that he is actually more mature for his age. I don't think that is giving this character of Selene enough credit.
Well, and I also think we do get insight into him, and maybe I'm trying to make this a thing for his character, but even when he talks about I was auditioning for this boy band, but I was also auditioning to play Tiny Tim, and if I'd gotten that, I would have done that. I think that there is that part of him that is an artist, and you see it later, he gets his solo career and he's a musician. I think that there are men who are this way. Maybe they're not super common, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that this could happen and these two people could exist and find each other.
Like Harry Styles. Okay, so let me talk about the boy band of it all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the super famous British pop boy band in this film, August Moon, is fictional, of course. People have actually been writing fan fiction about this group and imagining what they'd be like and likening them to One Direction since the novel came out in 2017. So what's hilarious is that there was a fair amount of hype and expectation about how August Moon would be portrayed in the actual film and what the music would sound like, right? It was obviously very fundamental to the success of the movie that the band actually have catchy original songs and be believable as pop stars. So all these actors had to get sent to literal boy band camp with vocal coaches and choreographers and stylists and workshops on chemistry and stage presence and media training, all of the rest of it. And Frankie Pine, who's the musical supervisor for this film, recruited a bunch of actual hit makers who've worked with major superstars. So Savan Kotecha was a producer on August Moon's songs, and he's written songs for Ariana Grande, Britney Spears, The Weeknd, and also for maybe you've heard of them, boy band named One Direction, including probably their biggest hit, That's What Makes You Beautiful. So yeah, the anticipation for this film's release has been big from One Direction fans, but also just kind of boy band fans in general. They put out the soundtrack in advance with all these August Moon songs, and they already have 1.5 million monthly listeners on Spotify. They've been promoting the music on Instagram, on TikTok, and kind of are an actual boy band whilst also being a fake boy band in this movie.
Yeah.
But those songs, I have to say,
the songs are so catchy.
You gotta dance before you walk is so good.
Yeah.
That's a summer bop.
It feels very Harry Styles.
Totally.
His solo album. It feels like Harry's House. It really feels like that.
But it
which
also
Sinclair,
does,
you don't like.
Listen, it also does show you how easy it is to mimic these things for a movie and to just be able to write in the style of.
I don't know that it's easy. They literally had to hire an actual hit songwriter.
Yeah.
That's kind of disparaging to that man's work, Miss Sinclair.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I just okay.
Oh my God.
I guess I'm disparaging then, as pardon my disparaging.
Okay, so what about performances? Let's talk about Annie.
Please let me talk about Annie.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I just love Annie. She is wonderful. She looks amazing.
She looks so fucking good.
Stunning. As somebody who has recently turned 40, You know, obviously we can't all be Anne Hathaway, but so lovely to see somebody being fab at 40. She's amazing. And it's, you know, I don't actually think this would work without the performances.
Yeah, I agree.
Of the two leads.
Yeah.
I agree too.
I think that it's not the storytelling or the dialogue that elevates this. I think it's the acting. I think it is them. And once again, especially since we just saw Anyone But You, you know, you see Sydney Sweeney in that part. Anne Hathaway would have elevated that part in Anyone But You.
100%.
And you see the work that she does with the script in this. I think that this is a relatively formulaic script, but I think that she is so good. She makes that person a person. That's actually a pretty stereotypical character in terms of a rom-com character. You know, how this attractive art dealer, she's going through a divorce. Her name is Selene. Like, that to me is a very stereotypical female role in a movie like this. But you believe Anne Hathaway is an art dealer. The way she talks about art, the way she looks at art. You can see that she's been through a divorce, and Anne Hathaway has a lot of life experience. You know, she's been through some bad men, and she's been in LA, and she can bring a lot of this to the role. I think that her emotionality and her charm
she's very charming.
What makes this watchable. For me, it was her. I couldn't take my eyes off her. She was breathtaking.
Yeah. She's very charming and also very sexy. Like, she knows how to be really sexy. Like, their sex scenes, even their kissing, like their first kiss scene, I was like, this is so sexy.
Great chemistry. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible chemistry. Like, I could feel the electricity. I was like,
Me too, 100%. You really, really felt it.
Yeah.
And again, it's like Anne Hathaway, I'm just obsessed with this era.
Yeah.
Like, you know, constantly I'm always sending you pictures on Instagram of her on the runway or her on some cover of Vogue or editorial. Like, she is living. She's clearly in her confident, like, in command power era. And that just shone through in every scene in this. We don't really see her play up her sex appeal that much in film. And this is like, wow, like, I loved it. And I agree, she made it so real. She sold every moment, even the tiny little subtle ones, like when he says, what do you see in this painting? And she looks at it, and the way that she just like lowers her voice and says everything. And that could be a cheesy line, but it's not when she delivered it. It's like you feel it. You're like, yeah, this woman does actually see everything. And now I want to ask her, well, what does that mean? And go, you know. So I thought she was brilliant in this. Brilliant.
And even her little playful moments, like when her and her daughter are singing along to St. Vincent in the car, like that could come across super cringe.
Yeah.
Even moments where she's in the hotel with him and they're like dancing and singing. I'm like, a lesser actor would make me want to vomit during the scene. Like, it could be so cringy, and it's absolutely not at all.
And she has these big, like, laugh moments and big smile. It was very Julia Roberts.
Yeah.
Like, she is one of the very, very few people who has that presence too.
It's like reverse Notting Hill, this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely loved it. And I mean, again, though, it also doesn't work without Nicholas Galitzine in this. I've seen him in Red, White, and Royal Blue, and that was also cheesy, but like great.
He's amazing. He can stand up to her because she is a force. She's a powerhouse, and his character needs to be able to be boyish, but be mature, and then also like go toe to toe with her. And I don't think that would be easy.
No. And to believe, because she is so commanding sensually, you have to believe that she would actually desire him. Yeah. And he manages to make that fully believable, not just because he's attractive looking, but because he could have that energy too.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought he was great. He's also in that new movie with Julianne Moore, Mary and George, I think.
Yeah. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it either, but again, I'm like, look at you with these powerhouse women.
Yeah.
Go off, queen.
All right, what about technical?
We have to talk about the clothes.
Yeah, the wardrobe in this is stunning.
How they dress.
Oh, no.
Anne Hathaway in
I
this.
know.
Incredible. Everything she wears. And, yeah, I just laughed when there's a line when she's like, about her ex-husband, just like, and his new girlfriend. She's like, she blew up my life, and it's like, okay, well, your life is that you're a beautiful,
I know,
well-dressed art dealer with a gorgeous house. Like, this woman's life is honestly kind of great, to be honest.
But she could be emotionally ravaged.
For sure.
She is emotionally ravaged. But
although I don't know why, because the ex-husband Daniel,
sucks.
to call it one other performance, Reed Scott. I mean, sure, I guess he was fine in the performance, but what an absolutely abhorrent, detestable character.
Yes.
Yeah, seriously.
Oof.
But she is just dressed so impeccably, and I love that her home is actually, I think, my dream home, and it's funny that she said her ex-husband called it their starter home. And just in that moment, I was like, oh, rich people they suck.
Yeah.
They really suck.
I know.
But she has the perfect house. Maybe one of my favorite houses I've seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great set design in this.
Wonderful.
Too. Yeah,
it's really, really cozy and warm and all of it.
And eclectic and lived in.
Mm-hmm.
The only technical qualm I have is I would suppose would be directed towards the makeup department. His tattoos look like shit. His arm tattoos.
I didn't know.
They look so fake.
I don't even remember them existing. That's so funny.
They look like they were drawn on with a Sharpie by a child. Like, they look really bad. And it took me out of it a little bit.
Helen, are you disparaging the work of the fake tattoos?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I am. They look really bad. But that's it. Oh, actually, no. One other. Sorry. When we do 5 years later, I didn't like his facial hair either.
Oh,
so
really?
I actually am having an issue with the makeup department. No, it looked fake. You don't think it looked fake?
No, I was like, ooh, okay, now you're even hotter. Oh my God, we didn't even talk about the ending. Didn't you love it? Did you cry? Did either of you cry at this?
No,
I didn't
actually cry. Edison.
Oh, I did.
I like the ending that they didn't end up together, because realistically, dating a person that famous would be horrible.
Wait, they did end up together.
Well, they do
at the
kind
end.
of.
Well, I
know, assumption. But I also appreciated, in terms of storytelling, just to circle back, that we deal with the fact that, like, she puts her daughter first, and it ends because it has to end. It's just not viable.
Yeah.
And then, if they end up together, it's sort of like The Breakup with Jennifer Aniston and Vince Vaughn.
Mm-hmm.
Similar feeling where I'm like, I'm glad that they do break up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get this little, like, okay, a couple years later they run into each other, maybe something will happen. But that's a more realistic love story.
Yeah, I really, really, really loved the ending, actually.
Yeah.
But we are also coming to the end of this episode. So what is the last word on the idea of you, Helen?
I loved this movie. I'm obsessed with it. I think that it is an incredible modern romance. I don't actually think it's a rom-com. I don't think it's that funny.
I was going to say that too. I think that this is just a romance. I don't think it's a romantic comedy at all. There's no comedy in it. So.
There's some funny moments, but
it doesn't. But rom-com, like, the comedy has a lot of slapstick elements to it normally that generally makes a rom-com.
Yeah,
I would put this as romance. I think
same, but no, obsessed. And now I've been in a short hair era, but now I'm like, I just want long hair.
Yeah,
her long, flowing hippie boho locks.
Yeah, definitely extensions for sure.
Definitely extensions. Yeah,
gets harder and harder to grow your hair.
I know your hair is quite long right now.
Keep it healthy. I gotta coconut oil it all.
I've been coconut oiling my hair
just
too.
Don't put it on your scalp because
I have been putting it on.
Put it on your ends.
Okay, Sinclair. Okay, Sinclair.
And you could even use like a.
Oh my God.
Okay, last words me. So, yeah, do I think that this is fundamentally a good movie?
Yes.
Not really, but. I think that a lot of things in this actually work. I think 2 really great performances, especially Anne Hathaway. I'd watch her in anything. I think she's an incredible actress. She gives 100% in everything. She's lovely. I did have a chuckle at how this really plays on the fantasy of a certain demographic. I can't help it. It's just something I noticed, and I gave a little chuckle while watching it.
Aren't all movies fantasy?
No. There are a lot of movies I watch that don't feel like a fantasy, more like a nightmare.
Do you?
But is this a fun watch? Yeah, sure. It is. I'm not here to shit on it. It's just that.
Mm-hmm.
Edison, what did you think?
The last word for me, I am Team Helen on this one. I'm
Team Helen too. I'm not trying to not be Team Helen.
I will be cutting your audio. I absolutely loved this movie. It was so fun. It made me feel a very particular kind of angst, though, of like, I really want this.
I know.
That's what it's designed to do.
But nonetheless, I had a really wonderful time watching it. Anne Hathaway, just amazing. And also, I really like Nicholas Galitzine as well. I just thought this was really, really good. So fun.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of Talk Movie to Me. If you would like to get in touch with us, our email is talkmovietome@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram @talkmovietome. Rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. And season 7 episodes are on YouTube at Talk Movie to Me podcast. I'm Helen.
I'm Miss Sinclair.
And I'm Edison. Bye.